Welcome to The Change Lead, the podcast providing leaders with the insight needed to get things done in a rapidly changing and complex world. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. Connect with our community of like-minded leaders on our website, thechangelead.com. Welcome to The Change Lead with your host, Babatope Ipiyumi.
Hello and welcome. This is Babatope Ipiyumi from The Change Lead, and welcome to episode 15 of The Change Lead podcast. In today's episode, we get to have a conversation with an Agile enthusiast. My guest today is a professional consultant with over 20 years experience. He provides business, technology, projects, IT management services, and architecture consulting services to organizations. He's also had the opportunity to work with startup companies as well as large blue chip organizations. My guest today is Dean Attidore. I have seen firsthand that Dean has a very positive mindset. He's also very good at creating the necessary partnerships to get difficult things done. Today, Dean and I will have a conversation on how you can get Agile to work for you and your team. Dean, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and welcome to the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure. Really looking forward to this as well. So if we just get started from the very beginning for our audience with Agile. So when we think of Agile, it almost seems as if there are two camps with Agile, all right? So one camp, which I'll probably put likes of yourself in, are people who they live and breathe Agile. They work with Agile, they know Agile inside out because that's what they do. There's another camp that they hear a lot about Agile because Agile has been around for a long time. But because they don't work with it, Agile seems to be something that happens over there or to other people, right? So the question is, for people who are in this other camp, they hear a lot about Agile, but they may have questions that they're reluctant to ask. How do you explain Agile to them?
Sure. Well, there's a list of things that I can say to describe Agile. Agile is essentially a method of reducing the cost of change and uncertainty. It's a set of values and principles, a systematic way or method of doing things, a methodology. It's also a mindset, a set of beliefs, principles, and a way of working. It serves as an overarching umbrella for practices and frameworks that embrace those values and principles, which include Scrum, Kanban, SAFe, DSDM, XP, among others. Characteristically, it's an iterative approach to getting things done, delivering value as fast as possible in increments rather than all at once. And importantly, it values collaboration, adaptability, getting it done, continuous improvement and continuous customer involvement to deliver the highest quality and highest value possible whilst maintaining committed and highly engaged and performing teams.
Cool. No, thanks. I think, so if I pick a few things I heard there, I heard collaboration, getting it done,
Yes.
Not having to wait till the end. So those are all things that you can't really argue. You can't argue against. Any leader, anyone in an organization looking to bring value will see the benefit in that. So I think almost brings us naturally to the next natural question is around usages, benefits of Agile. So one definition of intelligence is that intelligence is the ability to use knowledge and skills to a particular situation or scenario. So when it comes to Agile, to apply intelligence here, that means for Agile, how would we use our knowledge of Agile, what you know about Agile to situations? Are there examples, use cases that you can describe of how Agile has benefited people that you've worked with in the past?
Yes, well, initiatives with aggressive deadlines and a high degree of complexity and a high degree of uncertainty and uniqueness, they're the ones which are going to really benefit greatly from Agile. Also, Agile, it's going to benefit the type of projects where it's not fully clear what the end product will actually look like. Therefore, the vision and the macro requirements are established at initiation, but the detail itself actually emerges later as functional in iterative increments. Agile is also beneficial when incremental results which have value, and experimentation is welcomed. And it's also when it's possible to plan while you're working, then I find that Agile works fantastically in that sense. Agile also would be beneficial when your stakeholders committed to being an active part of an active partner in the efforts, and they're ready and willing to reprioritize when necessary and be responsive, and to define and add requirements as they're needed throughout the actual project itself. I found that greenfield projects, they're really great for Agile as well, because it allows product owners to discover the project's features and requirements in an iterative way, again, while planning your work. So you can see that Agile will greatly benefit your teams and your organization in many, many ways and in many, many situations. That said, there are many situations where Agile won't really work for you, as it's not a magic bullet for all situations or all initiatives or all objectives. I find that Agile doesn't work very well when none of the team understand what Agile actually is or how to do it. And I think that this goes hand in hand when situation where you find that the team are all novices, not necessarily highly skilled, and don't necessarily need to know or need to be that in order to get the job done. Agile also won't work well when your customer has no interest in close collaboration. This is what we were mentioning earlier about collaboration. If they don't have no interest in collaborating throughout the project, and they opt for really a hands-off approach and prefer to just give instructions and just wait for the finished article, Agile really isn't going to be for you. If you find that your project's measurement of success is defined by how well those customers' original and strict requirements are satisfied to the letter, Agile is going to fail you. Static goals and objectives just won't work for Agile. When critical or many steps involve really long lead times or lots of specialized resources to make them happen, again, Agile as a methodology won't be appropriate for you. And we talked about increments earlier. When incremental results have little or no significant value to anybody, that iterative characteristic of Agile, that's going to be ineffective to you. When a project has clear, stable, complete requirements and strict deadlines, and effort estimation is predictable, and when the project's been done many, many times before, some kind of a cookie cutter, as it were, then Agile won't be the right choice for you. You're better off going with things like waterfall. And speaking of waterfall, if a process is best implemented as the linear one, like waterfall, like requirements, design, build, test, deploy, maintain, and customer feedback and reevaluation won't be necessary, then Agile isn't best for you. Then you're best off with a waterfall approach. So I'd advise against using Agile when contract requirements, that's important, when contract requirements and regulations, they mandate a use of specific life cycle processes and mandate the inclusion of detailed and comprehensive documentation, and documented requirements, those type of things. Agile's not going to, or when Agile's not actually deemed as appropriate and acceptable, then, for example, like some military contracts, some military projects may require formal documentation, for example, and formal processes to be mandated. Those type of things won't work with Agile. So you're best going for a formal waterfall type approach. And finally, when organization processes are strict and they really must be adhered to, getting the best out of Agile, that's going to be really, really challenging for you. So you can see that there are great reasons for using Agile, but Agile, again, is not a silver bullet. So there are many situations where it really won't be appropriate for you.
Okay, no, thanks a lot for that. And that actually is very insightful. Like, you give the balanced view instead of just saying, "Oh, it's this brilliant thing." There are loads of benefits,
yes.
but
yes, you can't just, you know, let's all go agile and everything's going to be great. It doesn't work like that. You don't use it for everything. It's not going to be the best thing for you for some situations. And same way around, other way around. Waterfall things are best done in agile ways. So
no,
swings and
very,
roundabouts.
very, very insightful. I recall listening to someone who created the PMP course. So we know PMP is a very linear methodology. Okay.
Yes.
The creator of this course, his organization actually used an agile methodology to create the course. So it's actually quite interesting that there are lots of applications that may not be intuitive, but like you said, you do need a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of insight as to when and where you don't use agile, because there is intelligence. So you don't just do it for the sake of doing it. So
don't do it for the sake of doing it. Certainly.
Yeah.
Make a decision with agile is the best way to go.
No, really insightful. One thing you mentioned in that explanation was you used the term product owner, and it goes towards the knowledge of agile. Is this something you can unpack? Because that's a very key role, and it might be something that listeners will want to understand a little bit more. Who is a product owner? Why is that so key in agile?
Well, your product owner represents your customer. So they're the ones who are going to say, well, this is what the backlog is, the backlog of work that you're going to be focused on. And they're the ones who'll be setting the prioritization of that. They know what the customer wants, and they represent the customer in that regards. So they are a critical component. They're your customer in that sense. So that's your person who you need to be, as a Scrum Master, for example, liaising with on a regular basis, and must be involved in everything that we're doing.
Perfect. No, thanks. So you just use the word Scrum there. So if we move into frameworks, right? So, and it's going to sound funny, but let's imagine, for example, that Agile was a person, right? So Agile is a person like you and I. We can go visit Agile. We can speak to Agile. If we go visit Agile on Monday, for example, for some reason we find Scrum thereabouts. Go there Tuesday, Scrum's there again. How come? Each time we see Agile, we're talking Scrum. What is the relationship between this guy, Agile, and Scrum?
True. Well, it's true. It seems you can't hear about Agile without hearing about Scrum. And many mistakenly use the term synonymously. So Agile, like I said, is a set of values and principles, a methodology. And Scrum, like you were saying, is a framework that's based on those Agile values and principles. So to be clear, Agile is a methodology, and Scrum is a framework, and the most popular of the Agile frameworks, which is why you're always going to be hearing about it. So it's probably worth a moment to understand what the difference is between a methodology and a framework. A methodology is defined as a group of systematic and prescriptive methods, tools, and procedures that provide the guidance to get something done, and as used in a specific fields, for example, project management in this case. And a framework is defined as a structure of rules or ideas, and it provides a loose, flexible guide with a level of ambiguity embedded that allows for creativity or poetic license to get things done. So from that definition, you'll be able to deduce that if you're working for a small organization and managing small size projects, or working in the creative industry, for example, it's better to adopt a framework, something that gives you room for creativity. Whereas if you're working for a large organization and managing large size projects, it makes more sense to adopt a methodology that all projects may use. So there's an understandable reason for that. If a large organization only uses a framework and not a methodology for its employees, those employees would be inevitably doing things differently, even though they're all said to be adopting the same framework. So inconsistency is going to arise and monitoring is going to be challenging. So Scrum is an iterative method of product development that breaks down a project into small segments, which are then completed by small cross-functional teams within a defined period of time. And it focuses on a regular rhythm of delivery and relies on highly skilled cross-functional teams and some specific supporting roles, like I mentioned earlier about product owner, and a set of key ceremonies to complete the delivery of the project. So that's the difference between it. We're Agile being a methodology, Scrum being a framework, flexible, you can work within it. In a large organization, you want to have a methodology so that everyone's doing things in a consistent way, and choosing the right type of frameworks for the right type of situation is also important. So we were talking about earlier about one shoe doesn't fit all, as it were, and using the right things and having the right kind of common sense and analysis, use the right type of framework for the right type of situation as well. So Scrum is the most popular one. So it's understandable why people mention it all the time, but there are many to talk about.
Yeah, no, I think that was good. So for what you're saying, effectively, Scrum is like the 8,000-pound gorilla in the world of Agile frameworks.
Yes, it's the one that people just seem to like understand. It's the one that everyone talks about, but Scrum, Safe, XP, and you're going on. There's a lot more that you can talk about. Kanban, others.
True. Okay, thanks. So if we go into actual practical applications of Agile with frameworks as well. So you and I, we've both had the opportunity of working with pretty large organizations, large multinational organizations. And one trend we've seen, and large organizations have different kind of challenges. They just because of the scale, they have different kind of challenges. So we accept that. So one thing we tend to see, and I'll say, and then I would like to get your perspective as well, is technology divisions, a lot of times, because of their Agile's been birthed from the software development world. So technology divisions naturally tend towards Agile. They're going to embrace it. They're going to want to run with it. But in some cases, the technology division is ready to run with it. They bought into it, but everybody else doesn't quite follow suit. So business development, sales and marketing, legal and compliance, these are divisions that typically wouldn't go in the route of Agile. Now, my perspective, and I want to get yours as well, is that this mix doesn't quite work, where you have one division trying to follow a particular, effectively, it starts with a mindset, a methodology, and then specifics of a framework. One division goes ahead without the rest. So why is this happening, and what can we do to address this?
Yes, it's like a horse running where one leg wants to go the other direction, as it were. So it's a headache. We've worked in the same organizations and we've all seen it. So certainly this happens in many organizations, and it's extremely frustrating, especially if one's gone through the great lengths to educate teams in the adoption of Agile, yet other teams in the business still possess a traditional way of thinking and working, really. Well, the reality is that Agile really needs everyone working together in an organization and across the organization. It's not supposed to be limited to technology. And that assumption really needs to be put to rest. Indeed, it's a real problem when there is a general resistance to change in parts of the organization. And so organizations are really shooting themselves in the foot when they don't embrace Agile across the entire organization as bottlenecks begin. And you're only as strong as your weakest part. Oftentimes, you may have an Agile development team operating super efficiently, and they're only impeded when another department has antiquated and prohibitive change management processes, which is only going to be exacerbated even further where processes and practices are inconsistent across teams as well. Sometimes you might be fortunate to be working within a program that has teams operating in an Agile fashion, yet again, impeded by another program that works in a waterfall manner, with project plans that don't integrate well, and delivery delays that don't meet the needs of a fast-paced delivery approach of what Agile is going to give you. And many organizations still report in legacy way and seeking metrics or plans that simply aren't compatible with Agile. And the key is to get rid of the silo mentality, the us and them, the view of business versus technology, or technology versus business, and instead of look at the organization as a whole, where Agile team compositions are truly cross-functional, which includes the business. That's an important thing to do. Frameworks such as SAFe, a scaled agile framework, they're created to achieve business agility, which looks at scaling agile across the entire organization. One core competency of SAFe is the lean agile leadership. And that goes to drive and sustain organizational change and operational excellence by empowering individuals and teams to reach their highest potential, and embed the lean agile way of working by modeling the expected norm throughout an organization. So getting your leadership to start driving agile is really going to be key to helping to change things there. And another competency which is in SAFe is the organizational agility, and that includes lean thinking people and agile teams, and which is a state which occurs when everyone in the organization is trained in lean and agile methods and embraces and embodies the values, the principles, and the practices. And it seeks to continuously improve business processes, which includes implementing consistencies across the organization. So these are the types of things that you can do to help embed agile in an organization, drive departments to become consistent in the way they're working. And if you do those type of things, that can help break down those silos and hopefully deal with that problem that we have right now. So yeah, it's we're still getting there, but as long as we start doing those types of things, we will be able to get there in the end.
Thanks for that. So you acknowledge it's a huge challenge, but
it's a huge challenge. Yes.
Yeah, but there are frameworks that we can use to begin to address this, to look at this as well. I know you mentioned SAFe. I think one other thing from what you just said, I'll just unpack a little bit, is the training and learning. So effectively, we do need a learning mindset across the organization for organizations to embrace new ways of thinking, new ways of working. Yeah, so it sounds like we need to be not knowers but learners. So,
learners, exactly. Continuously improving, continually learning, continually retrospective thinking, etc. So yes, that's important.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you. So you recently wrote an article, and if I remember correctly, you titled it "How Agile Retrospectives Made My Team Rock Stars."
Yes, how Agile Retrospectives turned my teams into rock stars.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
my team. Yeah. So I read the article. I've actually read it a few times. I like the way the poster on the article as well. It's very catchy. You see a rock star with the guitar. But there's a lot of very important messages in that article. So for the benefit of audience, listeners, and viewers as well, could you just unpack that for us a little bit, please?
Sure, happy to. Well, retrospectives, they're extremely important, as you suggest. It's the time to stop, take a breath, and reflect on the past, and to improve on things for the future. And Agile places a strong focus on continuous improvement and learning from mistakes. If you don't pause for a moment to reflect on your performance, and how are you going to recognize where you've gone wrong, or to figure out ways to how to get better for positive change? So it provides an opportunity to praise success and to remotivate the team. So it has a strong attention to the people that do the work. It provides a safe environment for teammates to get stuff off their chests with mutual respect, without fear of reprimand. So retrospectives will re-energize your team, and it's going to strengthen their camaraderie. They're going to become more actively engaged and feel more empowered and more valued. Their productivity will improve as they learn to become more efficient in reducing delay and to avoiding repeat mistakes. Thus, the time to market will be reduced, and the quality of work will improve as well. And the list truly goes on. So I feel so passionate about that I wrote an article on that. So it's worth a read. Anyone who's listening, it's getting some great feedback. So as for how I use them, I mean, I can explain how I do it.
Sure.
Well, it's been said that, what's the phrase? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And well, that's empiricism. So empiricism is the idea that we learn best from experience, and retrospectives enable this. And so the empirical process follows 3 steps. That's transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And it's by following these 3 steps that I ensure that the team are open, honest, and unafraid about their feedback. That's transparency. The team dig deep into identifying the root causes of why issues may have arisen. That's inspection. And finally, to get the team to embrace the desire and the commitment to change things for the better that led to those issues in the first place, via actionable steps. That's adaptation. So in my experience, the key to having a great retrospective involve preparation. That's ensuring that everybody understands what the purpose is of that ceremony, and making sure everybody is comfortable enough and relaxed and enthusiastic enough to want to participate. So I find it's important to ensure that meeting invitations are clear. I'm about this with meeting invitations, period. But with retrospective, make sure that the meeting invitations are clear. I state the title, the purpose of the session. I state the agenda, and that consists of a quantitative review followed by a qualitative review. I state the key inputs to that session, which consists of a link to the actual retrospective board, so everyone gets to see what's going on. And I state the key outputs as well, which is at least 1 or 2 actionable improvement items to carry into the next iteration. And I make sure that the behaviors for success to get the best out of that session are also, fully understood. So as I mentioned, I have a quantitative review and I have a qualitative review. So in my quantitative review, my team assesses whether they met the iteration goals, simply a yes or no. We also collect and apply iteration metrics for visibility to help with process improvement. And these metrics include the team velocity, or how much work got done in that time frame, and the number of stories or work items that were delivered, or the number of defects that were addressed. Strong metrics. And in the qualitative review, we look at how well we addressed improvement items since the last retrospective, because we want to see that continual improvement. So it's no sense in saying these are the things that we want to do in the next iteration, but in the next iteration we don't actually look, did we achieve them or not? So you want to do that. So we look at which action items came up with, and commit to improving our ways of working and preventing any issues that arose. So these are the types of things we do in our quantitative review. And to ensure that I get the best out of participants, we agree what we feel are the key behaviors for success. And I ask that the team don't leave it until only the retrospective to submit items, and they're encouraged to submit items to the retrospective board at any time during the iteration. When things are fresh, something amazing just happened, stick it in the retrospective. When something bad is happening, which has really delayed you, throw it in the retrospective. If something's gone wrong, you worked out a way to fix it, oh, that's a great idea, put it in the retrospective as the ideas, etc. Other teams can learn from that. So it's really, really important. It's important that everyone should speak and feel that they have it, and feel that they have a voice. It's important. So eliminate there's no room for shrinking violets, but we also don't want any microphone hoggers as well. We all have that person who blah, 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 and everyone just sits down in a corner cowering. Nah, I try and knock that out. We focus on items. This is an important one. We focus on the items that the team can address, and not on how others can improve. It's not a blame game. And we have to recognize that the team did the best that they could based upon what they knew. Reminds me of that Norm Kurth statement, really. A key behavior that I expect is that participants are honest. This is that transparency thing, that the team are honest about what they feel didn't work, or what items were not completed. If it could be, maybe they simply underestimated the effort, fine, then we'll know next time to adjust it. If they felt like they were burnt out, fine. Then we'll see what we can do to remedy the situation so that we can manage those workloads. Whatever it is, just be honest and say what's going on. If you couldn't do it because you just didn't understand it, fine. That's a learning opportunity. I ensure that the team focus on continual improvement. That's be personal and team. And I encourage learning goals and creative ideas that better things for all. I also actively encourage participants to keep an open mind. Don't dismiss anyone's thoughts or opinions. And that's the way that creativity is cultivated and positive change results. There's no such thing as a stupid question, only stupid answers. Just throw things out there. Somebody might come up with a crazy, wacky idea and realize that that's going to half the time of doing certain things. And finally, I ensure that we celebrate success and we give others, and ourselves a pat on the back, as a little appreciation is all it takes to make the effort worth it. Those late nights that you've been working and people give you a thanks, you kind of forget about that late night. You're like, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad that everyone's happy. So finally, I'll say that a retrospective ought to be enjoyable and feel worthwhile. And it's always a good idea to switch up your approach to running them so it doesn't get stale. It's important to do that. Just don't have it samey, week in, week out, or iteration in, iteration out, as it were. Mix it up a bit, try new things, use new tools, keep people on their toes, keep them creative. That's also a good idea. A lot of people do just run retrospectives in a certain way and they don't change. And if they notice that they're not getting the kind of value out of it that you used to get, that'll probably be one of the reasons why. So retrospectives are great. And yes, my team are now rock stars. They're loving it. And I'm very proud of them.
That's really nice. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm not even going to try and unpack everything. I will put the link to the
link and have a listen
in the show notes.
Or read my article.
Yeah, sorry.
Or read
I'll
my
put the link
article
in the show notes. I'll definitely do that. I'll put the link in the show notes. You mentioned 3 things there I just want to touch on. So transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And I'm going to use that. So those are 3 things we need to get out. I'm going to use that. So,
important. Yeah, if you think about it that way, you'll get it. Yeah, you think about it that way, you know you covered it all.
Cool. No, that's really good. One other one that you picked on, and it's not always obvious, but when I've listened to people who study psychology, it actually reflects what you just said, whereby you give the feedback at the point you are experiencing it, because the way we remember things is different from reality. Because memory is clouded by perception, right?
Exactly.
So you might have had a very bad experience, but at the very end, something happened well, you forget all the pain. Okay? This is just the way the human body works.
Yes.
If we get the input during the journey, like you said, you are actually getting the reality.
Raw.
Right.
Truth. You're getting the facts, the truth, the raw, the passion. How did it make you feel? That's what you want. You don't want time to reflect on it. It's how did it make you feel? This is really, really bad. And it's also good because a lot of people, it resonates with people. And when you share your retrospective notes with other teams and they're like, hey, I've had that problem too. That's been really frustrating. And they look at the items that you said that you want to try and they're like, that sounds like a great idea. Then you fixed another team. Especially when you have scaled, agile, multiple teams, it shouldn't be isolated to the one team. Share them. And when you have your PI, if you're doing, say, SAFe, for example, you have your retrospective of your entire PI, you can pull the key ones in and you can start to share it out and other teams start saying, fantastic idea, or yes, we all have that same problem. Let's collectively look at a way that we don't do this again. And then you just not only just improve your team, even improve the entire agile release train of people. So that's why retrospectives are so important. And I'm singing it from the rooftops and I'm teaching teams how to do it.
I'm totally with you on this one.
I'm so passionate about this.
I sent a link of a recent retrospective I did to a colleague. So it says, what are lessons you learned from your, I just sent it, and quite a lot of items there. I think close to 70 items of things you could work through. Something else, just another experience for me on retrospectives before we try and move on, is I was recently, or a few years ago actually, I was parachuted into a team that was struggling with collaboration. Right, so I was parachuted into a project really struggling with collaboration. And the first thing I did before even trying to change any structure was just hold a retrospective. That was the very first thing I did. And straight away, because the team was struggling, there was a lot of negative feedback, but we were able to identify a couple of gems, and with those gems, with the challenges, we made the necessary tweaks. So I wouldn't say they turned into rock stars overnight, but the team began to function, right? And delivery actually started. So they're significantly really, really powerful.
That's the fact-finding exercise straight away.
Yes.
Same way if you joined a new team as a new Agile coach or Agile Scrum Master, for example, first thing you want to do is have a retrospective, learn about the team. You get to understand what the personalities are like. You see what their pain points are like. You see who has the great ideas, who talks, who doesn't talk. It's an opportunity for you to get all this beautiful data that you can work with, and then you can start to assess as each retrospective happens. Are we improving? Are we improving? Are we improving? And the teams also get to hear that you are interested in what they have to say. And it's not just, they're just sounding things off. They're actually seeing, we fixed it. It's fixed. Yeah. We've had this problem for the last couple of years. And, you've only been here a few weeks and that problem's gone away. These are the reasons why you need those retrospectives. So don't leave them as optional. If you don't have them, you're suffering.
Totally. If we move on to what you do. So I know you do a load of things, right? So one of the things you do, you probably already mentioned it, touched it, is you're an Agile coach. I recall a conversation we had recently where you were in a position whereby you were coaching the Agile coach, as it were. So you were coaching an Agile coach.
Yeah.
So can you talk us through, what is it being an Agile coach, and when does it make sense for organizations to bring an Agile coach? Okay, so an organization wants to make Agile work for them. When does it make sense to bring an Agile coach, and what's the best way of going about that?
Good question. Okay, well, in the same way a football team benefits from the training and development by a football coach, an organization benefits from the value provided by an Agile coach to train the teams and leadership in Agile and oversee the development of Agile teams to ensure that those effective outcomes. So you can kind of compare them to, say, a football coach in that sense. And again, like a football coach, helps the team reach and perform to their full potential. An Agile coach, their ultimate goal is to arm Agile teams with the right knowledge, tools, and training so that they'll be able to use Agile to its full potential. So you can see that similarity in that sense. So it makes sense to bring in an Agile coach when an organization wishes to introduce Agile or experiences problems with Agile, or begin to feel like Agile just isn't working. Bring in an Agile coach in those situations. Also, when there's confusion about how to do things and teams don't collaborate and we're getting those us and them silos arising. Again, time to get an Agile coach in. So for most businesses, especially mid-size and small organizations, it's more useful to hire an Agile coach on a contract basis to help them get their Agile teams up and running and eventually parting company once everyone's adjusted to the new way of working. And in a larger organization, with larger teams, keeping an Agile coach on a long-term basis is useful to help oversee the cultural changes as the organization shifts to Agile ways of working. And there are different types of Agile coaches as well. There's technical Agile coach, process management, and non-directive. So it really depends on what a team or organization requires. So a technical Agile coach, they work closely with development teams and they're expected to be experts in coding and integration, and they can really help propel a development team's capabilities in agile software development, for example. And process management coaches, they help to oversee an organization's adoption of Agile and focusing on establishing leadership in Agile teams. And non-directive coaches, they provide individualized support for people or organizations that need to solve a specific Agile-based problem. So you have those different types. So as far as how I'd recommend teams to work with Agile coaches. The first and foremost thing I'd say is to have an open mind, be honest about flaws, and be willing to try new things. Certainly be vocal and really want to collaborate and to contribute. Those are the ways to work with an Agile coach. That's what they want. They want people to be talking. They want people to be honest. They want people to be explaining what's going on so they can work together with you. Just like a coach will be helping a footballer whose technique isn't that great, they can help guide them and get them right. So that's why Agile coaches are so important, and that's how I'd say you'd work with them.
Cool. That's really insightful. So really, Agile coaches could actually be the determinant to make an Agile work for you.
Yes.
Small, large organizations.
Make Agile work for you. Yeah, make Agile work for you, not you work for Agile. That's what it is. People and interaction over processes and tools.
All right. So if we change gears a little bit and look really big picture to the world around us, okay?
Okay.
Right now, we're in a rapidly changing world. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of interconnectedness. We've got interconnected supply chains. We've got technology that's coming out that could literally redefine what reality is, right?
Disruption.
Where virtual reality, cyber reality becomes more material than what we refer to as material reality today, right? In this world, in this mega complex world, is Agile up to the task? Is Agile still really relevant today? I know it's a challenging question, but it's...
Well, you said it already. It's rapidly changing. So when things are rapidly changing, one needs to be flexible and adaptable, i.e. agile, to face it. So we're firmly in the age of software and digital with, as you mentioned, world-shaking disruptions. And to remain competitive, enterprises need to digitally transform their operations, their business solutions, and their customer experience. I think it was, we're talking about books, weren't we? John Kotter, who's a renowned author and Harvard researcher, and he's an expert in leading change. And he said that the world is now changing at a rate at which basic systems, structures, and cultures built over the past century cannot keep up with the demands being placed upon them. So the point is that large organizations are a threat due to the proliferation of smaller niche companies that are able to adjust and flex as market forces push them, or customer demands change, or legislation change, etc. Whereas it's typically much more difficult for the larger organizations to shift and to flex and to be adaptable due to their hierarchical structures and their change management processes. So you'll certainly recognize that from working in banks as you have, that established banks compete with fintechs, for example, and they do tend to struggle. So Agile helps these organizations to respond to change more quickly and effectively, and frameworks such as SAFe, I mentioned earlier, or LESS, they help to enable the entire business to be agile and not just software development teams. So take the most significant change that we all know about in the world, the COVID pandemic. The agile mindset has been especially impactful during this period of uncertainty. We've had to adjust to a new way of working. We're having this conversation at home, and this is where I'm working, where we need to think outside the box, and our mental health has also been put to the test, and human interaction has been impacted as well. So agile approaches of regular daily interaction, be it video calls or whatever, they've been a positive lifeline for many and providing some kind of a semblance of normalcy. And agile goes hand in hand with lean, and they're very connected. Whilst agile looks at optimizing development processes, lean looks to optimize production processes. So a shift to value stream management which is a lean management concept. It's important today if enterprises truly wish to compete in an increasingly digital world. It's fundamentally different because it looks holistically from ideation to delivery, and it will make good the promises that Agile and DevOps might not be able to fulfill at scale. It ushers in a change of thinking and tooling and job roles that can truly enable organizations to be able to compete. It takes a systematic approach to measuring and improving end-to-end flow, and it can help to shorten time to market, increase throughput, improve product quality, optimize for business outcomes such as time to market, revenue, customer retention, employee happiness. So indeed, Agile is highly, highly relevant for today, especially today, probably more than it's ever been. Things are changing rapidly, like I mentioned, so you need to be agile with it. So yeah, Agile's super, super relevant, definitely.
Yeah, so regardless of the challenge, what you're saying here, and I think I'm with you. Agile, with the right mindset, with intelligence in applying Agile is still up to the task.
Oh, yes,
in fact, it's probably the one thing we need to be looking at very carefully today.
Definitely.
I look at the examples you gave of where you don't want to use Agile, those examples seem to be going away as well. Those scenarios where you have predictability, where you have fixed things not changing quickly, we're seeing less and less of that. So organizations really need to pay very close attention to Agile.
Definitely.
Cool. If we go to the very beginning of Agile, so one of the things that came out when Agile first started, or the Agile movement, was the Agile Manifesto.
Oh yes.
And I just want to read it, and then we can come to that. So I've got the manifesto here. It's quite short and straight to the point, actually.
Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. 4 key values, 12 principles. Yes, right. I remember.
So I didn't have to read it. You remember everything.
I know it. I know it.
All right.
By heart now.
So from those four values, four values, what can we actually learn from the Agile Manifesto? You must have learned a lot if you've chosen to memorize it as well.
Well, yes. Like I mentioned, 4 key values, 12 principles, and they've been around for 20 years now. And I think that they've stood the test of time well. And the principles build mentioned like the 4 key values, you mentioned those already. And the principles build the foundation of Agile. And many of the principles reinforce the point that Agile is about embracing change and lowering costs. So the often overlooked preamble. So if you look at the manifesto, there's a little bit of preamble just before it, which says we're uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. So it contains a clear directive that Agile is driven by action, and we're learning by doing, and we're helping others to do it. So it means continual experimentation, exploration to get better and better. So the first thing to remember is that while the manifesto talked about software, the principles have grown beyond that. So to be fair, Agile thinking and ways of thinking, they existed long before the manifesto was written, and it just wasn't called Agile. So the manifesto effectively codified a way of thinking that hadn't been used to software development, so it can be used anywhere. So the first one I mentioned was individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So that's teaching us that to value people more highly than processes or tools, as it's clear the people that respond to business change, to business needs, and to drive change. It puts the focus on the people and their energy, their innovation, and their ability to solve problems. The second one was working software over comprehensive documentation. That's teaching us to, it it doesn't mean no documentation. You should just create documentation that provides value and at the same time does not hinder the team's progress. It simply reminds us or reminds the teams to document no more than necessary and when necessary, keeping documentation as simple as possible, just enough to be of use. The customer collaboration over contract negotiation, that stresses the importance of encouraging customers and development teams to collaborate to chart the best way forward together as partners rather than viewing each as adversaries. And keeping the customer as a part of the process ensures greater customer satisfaction as you give them what they want. And finally, the responding to change over following a plan, that teaches us that being open to changing requirements rather than being fixated on a specification or an upfront plan, that creates opportunities for innovation and better outcomes, and reduces the risk of handing to a customer something that they don't actually want. So altogether, these key values help you to deliver to customers products of greater quality and satisfaction, faster time to market, increase in productivity, and increased employee engagement. So you're learning a lot from these. So you really have a look at these values and these principles, really think about what they're doing, and you'll find that they really do benefit organizations and the people who work in those organizations too.
Yeah, it's interesting when you if you have an open mind, everything you've listed there, those are timeless principles, right?
It's timeless, yes. It's 20 years, exactly. It was 20 years this year that the manifesto was written, and we're still talking about it today. It hasn't changed because they're common sense things, and they are really, really important. So yeah, they'll continue to stand the test of time, even though the world is changing, like we were mentioning earlier. So yeah, good.
Yeah, it's really insightful. The last value there, where you value respond to change over following a plan.
Over following a plan.
So that particular value reminds me of a statement attributed to World War II US President Dwight Eisenhower.
Ah, yes. And
he said that plans are worthless, but planning is everything, right?
Planning is everything.
That is so key that he had to deal with this because it was in the middle of a war. You can go ahead, you do need to go through the process of planning, because actually planning is the value. It's the process of planning means you're collaborating, you're interacting, you're engaging people, you're getting insights. The output itself is not, it's important, but the people, the interactions, and that process is actually more important. It's actually something I do today. When I'm going through a planning exercise with a team, I put it on the screen so they know we are planning, but plans are worthless. And I reiterate that while creating a plan. And it just goes back to the Agile Manifesto. It's a way of thinking. You need to value the right things, people over processes. It is so critical.
Exactly.
If we go back to the way we started the conversation at the very beginning, we broke Agile into two separate camps, or the knowledge of Agile, two separate camps. So there are people who they live and breathe Agile the way, and it's by doing. Just what you said, Agile is we get to learn Agile by doing. That's how we learn.
Yes, learn by doing. Yes.
So there are people that do Agile, they work Agile, they create value using an Agile mindset, Agile methodologies with the frameworks to follow as well. But there is another camp who they've heard a lot about Agile. The manifesto has been out for 20 years. So you almost cannot hear about it, but it still seems to be something out there. We're speaking to those people, so hopefully they've followed us up to this point. We speak to those people again. What would you say is the very first step they need to take to make Agile work for them? So we've got a big picture, but now what's the first baby step you take to get Agile to work for you and your team?
That's a great question. Do you want the long answer or do you want the short answer? It all depends on how comprehensively you want to do this. An Agile transformation for an organization takes a series of steps from building a leadership coalition to make sure the executives are all on board, and through defining your end state vision, building a transformation roadmap, building checkpoints for measurement, adapting and learning, building your end state vision, connecting outcomes to business objectives, managing communication throughout. There's lots of steps to it, but that takes effort. It takes planning. It needs to be managed and measured for its effectiveness. So in short, I'll say, if you seek quick wins, one, learn what Agile is and what it isn't, so you know if it's for you. First thing to do. Two, analyze your current ways of working and identify your pain points. Three, apply your learnings and that Agile mindset to the most important pain points that are low-hanging fruit, that don't take a Herculean effort. So yeah, learn what it is, apply, analyze the current ways of working, identify the pain points, apply your learnings, look for the low-hanging fruit to apply your Agile mindset. That's how you do it. So it could be simple as something such as introducing a 15-minute daily stand-up to check your progress and to highlight issues quicker so that they can be collaboratively addressed. Or it could be like what we were talking about earlier, introducing retrospectives, and that serves to eliminate poor processes that impede progress, as well as motivate and reward employees. And it's an opportunity for you to get to learn what's really going on. So those would be the first steps I'll say into introducing Agile to your organization. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that would probably be the best thing to do.
Yeah, no, perfect. So you look for quick wins with learning. So you do some learning,
quick
and then
wins,
look for
learning.
Those quick wins.
Yes, because remember, you're going to have those people who are saying, Agile is a fad. Agile, we just go in Agile for Agile's sake. Those people are turned around when they see results. So deliver results. If it could be as simple as, the team are gelling more, the team are communicating more, communications are getting better, things are starting to get finished on time, people are asking the right types of questions, morale is improving. Those types of things, low-hanging fruit, quick wins. That mistake isn't being made anymore. Ideas are coming out. Quick wins, quick wins, quick wins. Those are the kind of things which will get people to start saying, okay, then we're now beginning to get it. It's starting to work for us. And it becomes, it becomes that, again, links to that people in interaction. People are starting to talk and getting better. And it's not just, we're following Agile, but they're doing the right things. That's what it's really all about. And that's how I'll really get things in. And in a big organization, maybe I'll go for a proper transformation, but those are the quick wins, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I really like the idea of the quick wins. The quick wins also allow you to build momentum. So if you've got a quick win, it creates energy, enthusiasm. You've got another little goal there, you go again. And a few years down the line, you realize you're miles away from where you started just because of these little quick wins. That doesn't need a lot of budget either, just change of behavior, a change of thinking.
Yeah, I did that in the organization I've been working in now, where I've taken a team that were performing in a certain way, ways of working with each other and ways of working with other stakeholders, etc. You got your shrinking violets of people who didn't speak in meetings, didn't really talk, didn't really hear their voices. And now, if you look at the team, these are the people who are saying, no, but and they're speaking, they're really explaining things. You're looking at the emails are getting more linking to user stories. So they're explaining, well, the relevance of this email is because of this. They're saying we need this in by blah, 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 because these are going to be the impacts of it. So they're looking at key dependencies. They're looking at assumptions. They're looking at what the key risks are with all the work. They're completely a different type of team. Small changes, massive results. Now the highest performing team in the entire program. So yeah, it works.
Perfect. Just in closing, it would be good to know a little bit more about you. So we know you're an Agile enthusiast, and it's very clear from our conversation.
Enthusiast. I love that word. I'm an enthusiastic person.
But what else are you doing? And also, how can listeners and viewers get in touch with you as well?
Sure. Well, I run Dean Consulting Limited. And right now I'm contracting as a safe agile consultant and scrum master for PepsiCo. And I'm teaching and evangelizing safe agile and leading development teams. It's a digital transformation program that improves data quality across Europe and sub-Saharan Africa and provides harmonized views of information across business units for financial planning and analysis. So I'm really getting deep into that stuff. I'm really into data and all those things. And I can be contacted on LinkedIn. That's Dean Attidore, and I'm available for one-to-one coaching and training via people per hour, Clarity, and Fiverr. So I'm teaching people Agile, and I get contacted for people who want assistance in specific problems that they're having, or just really understanding how to do things in a better way and making Agile work better for them as well. So those are kind of things that I'm doing. I'm pretty much doing a lot of different things. That you really know my background is architecture, enterprise architecture. That's Zachman, TOGAF, and all those types of things. And so I'm involved in lots of different areas, but it's all about doing things in a better way, doing the right things, and getting the right things done in the right amount of time. Getting things done. That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. I just get the difficult stuff done right first time. That's what I do for a living. When anyone asks,
things done.
get things done. Which gets us back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this call. It's just get things done. That's what it's all about. That's all the business really care about. Do you get it done? Will it be done when we need it in? Will it be as good as we expect it to be? Yes, it will. That's what we do.
Perfect.
And you're good at it, and you're good at it too, by the way. Because I've seen your work. So
thank you. Thanks.
I tip my hat to you too.
Thanks for that. I think it's been a brilliant conversation.
Yes, enjoyed it.
Been able to feel a little bit of the enthusiasm. I've learned more about Agile. I've learned a lot more about Agile, and hopefully our listeners or viewers have enjoyed and got a lot of value from this as well.
Sure
Hopefully we'll be able to bring you back at some point because I know you do a lot more things, so there'll be a lot more insights coming out.
Yeah, do a lot of different things.
Go along as well. Cool.
Yeah,
all right.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for your time today, and we'll speak soon. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Look after yourself. Bye-bye.
Are you looking to make Agile work for you and your team? Would you like to join in the conversation on how we can make Agile work for us? Connect with a community of like-minded leaders on our website, thechangelead.com. When you visit our site, click Join to join the community. Check out the show notes for details on how you can contact today's guests. Also, please don't forget to like, comment, review, and subscribe. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great week and see you next time.